Well, the distinctive feature of any racehorse is that the racehorse is an athlete first.
It doesn't take 6 months to prepare a horse for the Melbourne Cup. It takes at least 2 years.
So you've got to see a horse that, has athletic qualities. Now that means that he has to move his limbs well, and he's got to use his heart and his lungs well. So that normally means a big girth for your heart and lungs, and it means that you've got to be able to move in what you might call a smooth, regular, a wadding fashion. So, one of the things that I look at when I look at a horse is, if you look at a horse walking away from you, if it's using its backside to the point where its tail swishes like that, it's an indicator that that horse is using its body to move. We all remember Viv Richards walking out to bat for the West Indies.
Most of the memories are of the arrogant swagger out to the crease, and then the demolition derby just beginning from that point on.
Now you want your racehorses to look a bit like that. Relaxed, with a walk that you think, if he had to walk through a brick wall halfway to the wicket, he'd be able to do it. When you look at a Melbourne Cup horse then, you're not going to win, although last year was an exception, I might add, with a horse that hasn't got the bloodlines to do it. Most of the time, a horse needs to have a pedigree that says, this horse is capable of. Now these days you can do DNA tests, and you can see that this horse is a CC, which is a sprinter, or a TT, which is a stayer. You can do all those tests. But the breeding of the horse will tell you that, well, this horse and this mare have generally bred horses that can stay, 2 miles. So that helps. Then you've got to have a trainer that's capable of getting them there.
I grabbed Deakin off the truck when he arrived out of quarantine, and I rang Stokesy up and said, Stokesy, this horse got the biggest set of lungs I've ever seen on a horse. Just a standout from the time he got off the truck, and I've tried to explain to people that, because I've galloped him a few times, you can sit up and make him dash home in a gallop and he'll gallop the house down, and you can make a long sustained gallop on him and he'll produce the same piece of work. So for him, he's just a naturally gifted horse and very big aerobic base, so it sort of holds him in good stead for where he's going.
He was a pretty wishy-washy yearling, to be honest, and it wasn't surprising he didn't sell. He was quite well bred. He was out of a Dabawi mare, which is as good as you can get. He was by Australia, which was a middle to lower level Coolmore stallion, so he wasn't impeccably bred, but he was a chestnut and not overly impressive, but athletic. He was always an athletic young horse. As he developed, and certainly as he filled out, he really took great shape. He's got a great girth, obviously you've seen the horse. He's got good length, got a good size, he's 16'1". He probably weighs around the 530, 540 kilos, which is a strongish sort of a horse. And that wishy-washiness as in early horses has now been replaced by a glowing chestnut coat. So, what I see now is a very, very appealing and attractive horse. One of the biggest problems we find with trainers is impatience. Bart Cummings used to say that time was the most valuable asset in racing, and it is. But a lot of trainers are far too eager to see the potential of the horse come out in a race, and sometimes that's to the detriment of the horse's long-term racing career. You get back to the early question, why Stokesy? Stokesy's a patient man. If he's got a horse that he thinks is going to be able to do this, as he did with Deakin Sweet Jr., who was not a particularly talented horse, but he got the most out of that horse. And with Ahmad, who was an older horse by the time he got hold of him, but he still had him winning races at 11, that's what you want to see. And Philip, as he's been with a number of our horses in the past, is the ideal trainer we thought for the horse. He could well be a Melbourne Cup horse, later this year.